Fantasy movies have been a staple of cinema for decades now, and this is a trend that I don't think will be changing anytime soon, as there are a plethora of great fantasy movies currently in development, and in this video I will give you my recommendations of the top 10 upcoming fantasy movies releasing in 2026 and 2027. But before we begin, don't forget, if you love anything to do with historical movies or fantasy movies, then subscribe to my channel, History Spark. At number 10, it is The Mummy 4, which is the highly anticipated sequel to 2001's The Mummy Returns. And this next installment in the Mummy series will reunite original stars Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz, who are both finalized to reprise their iconic roles as adventurer Rick O'Connell and Egyptologist Evelyn O'Connell. The plot of this film is still unknown, but the film will be directed by Matt Bettinelli and Tyler Gillett, and the script has been penned by David Cogshaw, with Sean Daniel returning to produce Mummy 4 as well. I personally loved the Mummy franchise as a kid, and I can't wait to check out Mummy 4 when it hits cinemas all across the world on May 19, 2028. At number 9, it is Children of Blood and Bone, an upcoming fantasy film based on Tomi Adeyemi's best-selling fantasy novel in which Zayli, a young African girl, must embark on a thrilling quest to restore magic to her forsaken people, while striking back against a ruthless monarchy and his evil followers. Paramount will be producing this African fantasy adventure, and Thuso Mbedu will be leading the cast as Zayli, and legendary veteran actors like Viola Davis and Idris Elba will have supporting roles within the film as well. So if you have any sort of interest in fantasy movies and want something unique and different in the genre, then be sure to check out Children of Blood and Bone on January 15, 2027. At number 8, it is Forgotten Island, an upcoming animated feature film which follows a group of protagonists who are magically transported to a long-lost mystical island which is deeply rooted in Philippine mythology and legend. This movie is being directed by Joel Crawford and Filipino animation director Januel Mercado, who has previously worked on animated films like Puss in Boots. So if you enjoy animated fantasy films, be sure to check out Forgotten Island on September 25th, 2026. At number 7, it is The Magic Faraway Tree, a live-action fantasy adaptation of Enid Blyton's beloved children's book series, and the film follows a modern family, parents Tim and Polly alongside their 3 children, who are forced by financial strain to relocate to a dilapidated barn in the remote English countryside. There, the children discover a massive magical tree inhabited by eccentric characters and a fantastical land right at their doorstep. This movie will star Andrew Garfield, one of my favorite actors, and Claire Foy, Michael Palin, and Rebecca Ferguson will all have supporting roles as well, so definitely a very talented cast involved with this film. So if you want a fun-filled fantasy adventure that the whole family can enjoy, be sure to check out The Magic Faraway Tree in cinemas on March 27, 2026. At number 6, it is Masters of the Universe, an upcoming sci-fi fantasy adventure which tells the story of a young Prince Adam who escapes to Earth during a devastating civil war, only to return 20 years later to reclaim his lost birthright, the Power Sword, and transform into He-Man to defend his home planet of Eternia from the powerful villain Skeletor. This reboot is set to be released to cinemas worldwide on June 5th, 2026, after which it will begin streaming on Amazon Prime Video. So it definitely seems like Amazon and Sony have high expectations for Masters of the Universe, and to be fair, I do too, and I can't wait to watch this film in the summer of 2026. At number 5, it is Mortal Kombat 2, the sequel to the 2021 epic fantasy film Mortal Kombat, which will see the fighters from Earthrealm continue their fight for survival against the other worlds, and this sequel will introduce fan favorites Johnny Cage and Kitana. This movie will be directed once again by Simon McQuoid, and New Line Cinema will be producing the film. The first trailer for Mortal Kombat 2 received over 100 million views on YouTube, so the hype for this fantasy adventure is definitely at an all-time high, and I can't wait to watch Mortal Kombat 2 in theaters on May 8th, 2026. At number 4, it is Narnia, the Magician's Nephew, which is Greta Gerwig's highly anticipated adaptation of the popular fantasy book, and it will be our first foray into the Chronicles of Narnia universe in many years. And the Magician's Nephew follows Diggory and Polly as magical rings send them into a fantasy world where they accidentally unleash the evil Jades and then witness Aslan create Narnia, forcing Diggory to make a choice that will shape its future forever. This adaptation reportedly updates the book's original timeline by shifting the story setting to 1950s London instead of the original 1900 timeline of the book. The confirmed cast features newcomers David McKenna and Beatrice Campbell as Diggory and Polly, alongside Emma Mackey as the White Witch, Daniel Craig as Uncle Andrew, and Carey Mulligan as Diggory's mother. This movie will debut with an exclusive 2-week run in IMAX theaters starting on Thanksgiving weekend, before becoming available to stream globally on Netflix on Christmas Day. So if you want to revisit the world of Narnia, be sure to check out this epic fantasy film near the tail end of 2026. At number 3, it is The Legend of Zelda, the first high-budget live-action depiction of the legendary Nintendo video game, in which a warrior named Link will go on a fantastical adventure to rescue the Princess Zelda. This movie is being directed by Wes Ball, who has worked on the Maze Runner and the Planet of the Apes franchises, which are 2 franchises I enjoyed a few films of, so it is a promising choice to some degree, I think. No casting information though has been released yet, except that 16-year-old Benjamin Evan Ainsworth has been cast as Link, and 25-year-old English actress Bo Bragason will be portraying Zelda. So if you're a fan of the Legend of Zelda video games, then you will most likely enjoy this live-action depiction of the franchise, which will be releasing to cinemas on May 7th, 2027. At number 2, it is The Odyssey, which depicts the 10-year-long return journey of Odysseus to his kingdom of Ithaca after the conclusion of the Trojan War. And on the way, Odysseus will battle against many mythical creatures, experience love and loss, and nearly die multiple times on this return journey. And this movie will be one of the most expensive fantasy films ever created, with a budget of over $250 million. And I bet a large chunk of that budget will be going towards the cast of this film, which will star Matt Damon, Robert Pattinson, Tom Holland, Zendaya, Anne Hathaway, John Bernthal, Charlize Theron, and many more talented actors and actresses. So The Odyssey is definitely looking like it's going to be an awesome epic fantasy adventure, and it is easily one of my most anticipated films of 2026, and I can't wait to watch it in cinemas on July 17 of this year. And the top spot on this list goes to The Lord of the Rings: The Hunt for Gollum, the long-awaited return to the Lord of the Rings universe created by Peter Jackson. And this Middle-earth adventure specifically explores the 17-year gap between Bilbo's 101st birthday party and the journey into the mines of Moria, with the plot delving deep into Gollum's perspective during this time period, alongside Aragorn and Gandalf's quest to track him down to prevent the One Ring's location from being revealed to Sauron. This movie will have Andy Serkis returning to play the role of Gollum, but no other casting details have been confirmed as of yet. The movie is currently shooting principal photography in New Zealand, and it is slated for a December 17, 2027 release date, so definitely a great way to kick off the holiday season next year. So those are the top 10 upcoming fantasy films of 2026 and beyond. Let me know in the comments down below if there are any other upcoming fantasy films that I may have missed out on. And as always, if you want to stay up to date with everything to do with fantasy movies and historical movies, then subscribe to my channel, History Spark, and thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.